A 98-page federal indictment, a former president facing the real possibility of spending the rest of his life in prison, and the world's richest man choosing this exact moment to step directly into the fight. What happened this morning was not just another legal headline or another predictable escalation in America's endless political drama. It was a line being crossed, one the American justice system has spent decades deliberately trying not to cross. Federal prosecutors formally charged Donald J. Trump under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, better known as RICO. This is the same law built to dismantle mafia families, drug cartels, and organized criminal syndicates. The same statute designed to pierce the insulation between leadership and crime, and for the first time in the nation's history, it is being applied to a former president of the United States. Within hours of the indictment becoming public, Elon Musk broke his silence. Not with a throwaway post, not with a vague expression of concern, he launched what can only be described as a coordinated information counteroffensive. More than 200 million people have already engaged with it. Not impressions, not passive exposure, but direct interaction. What unfolded today was not simply a legal development. It was the collision of law, power, narrative, and technology at a scale the American system has never confronted before. And most of the coverage you are seeing is missing what actually matters. Earlier today, the Department of Justice unsealed a sweeping federal indictment against Donald Trump. The document spans 98 pages and reflects what prosecutors indicate is more than 3 years of investigation. The charges include conspiracy to defraud the United States, obstruction of official proceedings, wire fraud related to political fundraising, witness tampering, and most critically, operating what prosecutors describe as a continuing criminal enterprise. That phrase is not rhetorical. It is a legal term of art with specific implications. It is the foundation required to invoke RICO. RICO is not a law prosecutors use lightly. It is not a standard escalation. When the Department of Justice invokes RICO, it is making a declaration that it believes the conduct in question is not a collection of isolated offenses, but a coordinated pattern of criminal behavior carried out by multiple actors working toward shared illegal objectives. The statute was crafted to address organizations where leaders avoid direct participation in criminal acts while directing, enabling, or benefiting from those acts carried out by others. It exists precisely to eliminate the defense of distance. And now, federal prosecutors are asserting that this framework applies to a former president. According to the indictment, Trump is alleged to have led a continuing criminal enterprise that began during his time in office and extended into his post-presidency. The alleged conduct spans multiple years and involves coordination across political operations, fundraising networks, legal intermediaries, and business entities. Prosecutors claim this was not spontaneous misconduct or momentary overreach, but a sustained effort to manipulate institutions, obstruct lawful processes, and extract financial and political benefit through deception and intimidation. If convicted on all counts, Trump could face up to 90 years in federal prison. At 70, 8 years old, that is not a symbolic maximum. It is a functional life sentence. The statement issued by the Attorney General's office was carefully calibrated, but unmistakable in its intent. Officials describe the indictment as historically unprecedented and explicitly engineered to withstand political pressure. That phrasing is not accidental. It signals that prosecutors anticipate extraordinary retaliation, legal obstruction, and public attacks. It tells observers that this case was structured with the expectation that every conceivable procedural, constitutional, and political challenge will be deployed against it. The Department of Justice is communicating that it believes it has built a case capable of surviving all of that. What makes today even more revealing is what happened in the weeks leading up to it. Washington went quiet, not the usual quiet, but the kind of silence that only appears when something extremely sensitive is in motion. Grand jury activity was sealed, senior officials altered schedules, the constant hum of anonymous leaks stopped almost entirely. Anyone familiar with how this city operates understands what that silence means. It means operational lockdown. It means something is being protected from interference. This morning, we learned what that was, but the indictment itself, as significant as it is, does not fully explain why today feels different. The turning point came not from the courthouse, but from Silicon Valley. Elon Musk's response fundamentally altered the trajectory of this case within hours. For months, Musk had maintained a posture of selective commentary regarding Trump's legal exposure. He offered occasional remarks, but avoided sustained engagement. That restraint ended abruptly today. Within hours of the indictment being unsealed, Musk published a series of posts on X that collectively reached more than 200 million users. These were not emotional reactions or spontaneous outrage. They were structured, sequenced, and strategic. Musk accused the Department of Justice of political bias. He framed the prosecution as a weaponization of law enforcement against democracy. He criticized individual prosecutors by name. He attacked the timing of the charges and characterized the case as evidence of a two-tier justice system. What was most striking was not the content alone, but the speed and scale. Musk moved faster than Trump's own legal team. Before emergency motions were filed, before official responses were drafted, Musk was already shaping the narrative for a global audience. He published what he claimed were internal communications suggesting political coordination. He highlighted platform data to argue selective amplification and suppression. He effectively transformed X into a command center for Trump's public defense. The response was immediate and measurable. Rump hashtags surged to the top of global trends within hours. Tens of millions of users engaged directly with Musk's content. This was not organic outrage building gradually. It exhibited the hallmarks of a coordinated counter-narrative deployed with precision timing. Whether or not one believes that coordination was intentional, the effect was undeniable. It is important to be precise here. This is not an accusation about Musk's motives. Motive speculation is irrelevant. What matters is observable behavior. The world's most influential platform owner, with the largest megaphone ever assembled, chose this moment to align himself publicly and forcefully with Trump's defense. That alignment changes the case itself, because this is no longer just about what happens in court. It is about what happens in the information environment that surrounds the court. The Department of Justice can present evidence. It can argue law, it can seek convictions, but it cannot control public perception. And when one individual can reach hundreds of millions of people in a single afternoon, shaping belief faster than facts can be adjudicated, the legal process becomes only one arena among many. Prosecutors now face a multi-front battle they do not fully control. Trump's own response reveals that he understands this dynamic perfectly. He did not retreat. He did not pause. He did not allow the weight of the charges to settle before responding. Within hours, his legal team filed emergency motions in 3 separate federal courts. These were not procedural filings. They were aggressive constitutional challenges designed to attack jurisdiction, challenge the applicability of RICO to a former president, question prosecutorial authority, and contest the legitimacy of the timing itself. Simultaneously, Trump released a video message to supporters. He framed the indictment not as an accusation against him alone, but as an attack on his voters. He presented the prosecution as an effort to silence a political movement rather than enforce the law. He warned that what was being done to him could be done to anyone who challenges entrenched power. That messaging resonated immediately. Within 8 hours, grassroots organizations reported raising more than $20 million. Early polling showed no erosion in Trump's support. In some segments, support appeared to harden. To his base, the indictment did not signal guilt. It signaled persecution. That interpretation spread rapidly, reinforced by sympathetic media coverage and high-profile endorsements. Republican lawmakers responded with remarkable speed. A coordinated media blitz followed. Members of Congress appeared across networks, repeating a unified message of political prosecution and election interference. Conservative outlets began scrutinizing prosecutors, examining political donations, prior statements, and professional histories. The defense expanded beyond legal arguments into institutional resistance. This was not simply a courtroom strategy, it was an activation of an entire political ecosystem. This exposes a core miscalculation in the prosecutorial approach. Trump does not behave like a normal defendant because he is not operating as an individual. He operates as the focal point of a movement. Pressure that would fracture ordinary defendants tends to unify movements. Legal jeopardy becomes symbolic. Charges become proof of conspiracy, and today demonstrated that dynamic clearly. The decision to invoke RICO was not solely about evidence. It was a strategic choice. RICO allows prosecutors to connect disparate actions into a single narrative of enterprise-level criminality. It allows them to increase penalties and, critically, to apply pressure not only to the central figure, but to everyone connected to the alleged enterprise. That is the leverage point. The strategy assumes that as legal exposure spreads, loyalty weakens. That associates will choose self-preservation over allegiance. But that assumption is being tested in real time. Instead of distancing themselves, Republican leaders are closing ranks. Instead of hedging, Trump's allies are escalating. Musk's intervention accelerated that consolidation dramatically. When the wealthiest individual on the planet publicly aligns with Trump's defense, it signals to supporters and elites alike that this is not a lost cause. It signals that powerful resources are willing to fight. This case also lands at the most volatile possible moment. It unfolds during an active presidential election cycle. It intersects with an already fractured electorate. Progressive Democrats view the indictment as overdue accountability. Moderate Democrats worry about backlash and legitimacy. Republicans frame it as authoritarian overreach. Independents struggle to discern truth amid narrative warfare. The Attorney General must navigate all of this while preserving institutional credibility. That task borders on impossible. Evidence does not decide elections, stories do, and Trump currently dominates the story. Every legal move is reframed as persecution. Every development fuels fundraising. Every escalation deepens loyalty. Legal analysts outlined several possible paths forward. Trump may fight through the election, turning every hearing into a campaign event. He may seek Supreme Court intervention, forcing constitutional questions before trial, or he may bet everything on electoral victory, using executive power to neutralize the case if he wins. Each scenario leads to prolonged conflict. Prosecutors insist they are prepared. They built this case over years. They anticipate delay tactics. They expect constitutional challenges. They believe their evidence will withstand scrutiny, but the system itself is under strain. The question is not only whether the case can succeed legally, but whether public faith in the process can survive the pressure. Three realities now define this moment. First, this indictment crosses an unprecedented threshold in American history. Second, Elon Musk's intervention has transformed a legal case into a full-scale information war. Third, the assumption that legal pressure would fracture Trump's coalition has so far proven false. What happens next will be decided not just in courtrooms, but in narratives, platforms, and perceptions. The system is being tested in ways it was never designed to withstand. This story is not ending. It is only beginning.